City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Ryan Anderson is on the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would be happy to do the Pledge of Allegiance if someone will pray.
Really?
You have someone else.
Somebody else needs to. Okay, let's do that. Shelley's going to give us the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me shut that.
Right. It's okay. No, they unlocked it.
Our kind, eternal Heavenly Father, we're very grateful unto Thee for our many blessings. We're grateful for the opportunity to be here this evening in the capacity of Planning Commission. Father, we'd ask Thee that Thou wouldst bless us with wisdom and the ability to weigh the items before us. Help us that we'll be able to make decisions in an appropriate manner. We ask a blessing upon our city and our community and the people who reside here. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Shelley and Marv. Right. Doesn't look like there's anybody here from the general citizenry. Unless you have something to add today, Fred. No? Okay. So I didn't know if you were just a general citizen today. Then we will just
citizen.
Jump all the way down past the public hearings to general business. Number 1, recommendation to City Council of a final plat for Desert Village Townhomes Phase 2.
I'll give a brief overview, and then we have Drake Howell present, who's the project representative, can maybe update us with the very latest. So this is final plat Phase 2, 53 townhome units on 4.4 acres located east of Rachel Drive and east of the Lava Ridge Intermediate School and north of the Harmon store. So the 53 two-story townhome units, there's 8 buildings in this phase. The preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission and City Council in June of 2020, and the entire project has 185 total dwelling units on 17.1 acres. And that also was done through the density bonus provisions. And so maybe, Christelle, if you have the plat that we can pull up, there we go. Thanks. The project has a tile roof, 2-tone stucco colors, attached 2-car garages. All dwelling units are outside the 100-year floodplain boundary. The project LOMAR, which is letter of map revision for the floodplain, was approved a couple of years ago. And I'm going to have Drake maybe update us on maybe what amenities and where they are with those. I think originally the project proposed a pool with bathrooms, a small playground area, pickleball courts. They will have to have an HOA at some point to maintain the common areas. So they have access off of Rachel Drive, two accesses off Rachel Drive. And then you can see on this plat, one here on the sidewall looks a lot better. They back up to the lava flow wash on the south, and then you got Tuacahn Wash on the north or northeast part of the project. They have public trails are planned along both washes. And maybe with that overview, staff recommends approval. It's compliant with the approved preliminary plat. No issues that we see. Maybe to ask Drake to give us an update on
Step up, sir.
perhaps the amenities and anything else that I missed.
Yeah, so nothing's changed since our preliminary approval.
No, we're just plowing forward and excited to be building. You see our first phase, we're already going vertical. We've framed out our building, our first building. It's a 7-plex. And we poured footings on the next building just the other day. And so things are moving forward in phase 1, and we're just trying to stay ahead. You'll start seeing more at a more aggressive rate in phase 1 started here soon. And so we're just wanting to be ahead and not, be behind the curve when we finish out phase 1. And that's why we're having the request, the application to have phase 2 in front of you and then the council and get that recorded and move forward. So the primary amenity in the whole community, Bob kind of indicated the amenities, is actually in phase 1. It will be a pool and spa and associated restrooms and pool equipment room. And then in phase 3, which is just below the phase that we're talking about tonight, there will be pickleball and kind of like a playground tot area. And so those are the kind of the main amenities of the project. The trail on the lava flow side was already put in by the city. You probably are running on it every morning or biking. It's a great trail. The city put that in even before we were going vertical. You can see we've mass graded all of the 17 acres. Most of our infrastructure is in. Really what's left in phase 2 and phase 3 are just finishing the roads and the curb and gutter, et cetera, kind of the surface stuff. But anyway, I can respond to any specific questions if you have any, but we're just excited to be in Santa Clara City. I tell colleagues I work with that if I could, I'm not saying this just because I have, brown stuff on my nose, but I can't tell you how pleased we are working in your city. We did Roan a while ago, the bring your own builder custom subdivision down here by the river, and just had a great success with that. We're doing this and we really appreciate you as a commission, the council, the mayor. He's our engineer, so kind of wears 2 hats there. And the staff. And anyway, just are happy to be in Santa Clara. Thank you.
Great.
So I have one question. In phase 2, the public streets called Tuacahn Road will then eventually cross the Tuacahn Wash.
That's my understanding from a city master plan perspective. In our specific approval, that responsibility for spanning the wash lies, I think, with either the city or the developer on the other side. We don't have to put it in.
So you're just bumping up to that boundary.
Come up to it. Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And just as a note, it is Tuacahn. The city staff reached out to us recently, and apparently the post office here covers both your city and Ivans. And apparently there's a Tuacahn Drive or some road with Tuacahn in it in Ivans, and the post office has asked if we wouldn't recommend a new name. And so we'll be working through that. We have to go to the TRC next week to propose a new name. So just so you're aware.
I want you to use all the same letters in Tuacahn and just make a new word.
I love that idea. I really like that. It's a Paiute name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Cathahan. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else from you guys you need to see? I mean, it's easy when they bring in the exact same thing that they submitted before. All right. Well, in that case,
Phase 3 will go down in the
goes in this
empty
lower
spot there.
section in between
And
that.
that's where all your amenities are going to be.
Well, there's a small one right here.
Okay.
Is phase 1 all sold?
It's not.
Oh, there's some available. Wow.
So you can buy one.
I would just hold off on selling it until you know how much it's actually going to cost you.
Yeah, well, we actually are holding these. They're individually platted, as you can see, as individually owned, but we're holding them for long-term rental.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is right.
All right. Yeah, I think I remember asking that question
Yeah.
before.
Yep, I do remember that.
Okay, you guys have a recommendation?
Yeah, I'll recommend the approval of the city council of the final plat for the Desert Village Townhomes Phase 2 located east of Rachel Drive and north of the Harmon store.
Second.
Okay, I've got a, a first from Curtis and a second from Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. On your way. Number 2, we've got, consider the approval of the final plat for Heritage Point Townhomes, Phase 2. Let's look at that. Bob, tell me what you got.
Okay, this is final plat for phase 2. And Christelle, if you can pull the plat up on this one also. So there's, in this portion, there's 27 townhomes. They're all 2-story tall units. As you recall, on this property, the phase 2 is on the east half of their property. Phase 1 is closer to the corner of Lava Flow and Santa Clara. And then on that corner, as you remember, there's an area set aside for future commercial. There's been a few things that have come through the city. I don't know what the latest is, but anyway, there's some things that they've been thinking about on that commercial. Nothing's been finalized.
It's
So
not
anyway-
Krispy Kreme?
Pardon me?
Is it a Krispy Kreme?
Let's not come forward. Yeah, that would be good. I think that would cause too much traffic congestion. So anyway, let's see. So the phase 2 area is 2.8 acres. The entire project contains 55 units on almost 5.5 acres. So for an overall density of about 10 units per acre. But again, we're just looking at the east half now, which is phase 2. So the streets inside the project are public. Plat conforms to the preliminary plat. These units were all approved for short-term rental, vacation rentals. There's a perimeter wall along Lava Flow Drive, which was approved as a combination of 3-foot masonry wall and 3 foot of wrought iron on top of that. The south wall that backs up to the, I forgot the name of the property owner, is it Johnson or something?
Johnson, yeah.
Johnson. That is just this kind of a standard masonry 6-foot tall block wall on the south. And I think my understanding is on Santa Clara Drive, they really don't need a privacy wall in front of the commercial development. That would be optional, but along the residential where they back to Santa Clara, the units will back onto Santa Clara Drive. They do propose a privacy wall. And let's see if Jared knows this for sure, but I think it's just a 6-foot masonry wall, as I understand, along Santa Clara Drive. They have a landscape plan submitted, and we'll look at that in a minute. They have trees and shrubs will be placed on the street side of the privacy wall. There are 2 street accesses to the site, one off Lava Flow Drive and the second is off Santa Clara Drive. All units have a 20-foot deep driveway and a 2-car garage. I think, as I understand, phase 1 plat contains most of the amenities, the pool, and what I think they have a small clubhouse. And there are some additional amenities in phase 2. And I did ask the developer, and he sent over some plats that will show the amenities. They aren't shown on the final plat, but they're shown on the improvement drawings. Again, there is this future commercial area on the corner of Santa Clara and Lava Flow Drive. AGEC did the geotechnical report, indicated this property was suitable for development. I don't know much more than that about it. Jared Bates is here to represent the project. So Jared, could you maybe give a few updates on the latest? Particularly, I don't know if you know exactly what that privacy wall along Santa Clara Drive would be, and then maybe an update on the amenities.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so as far as I understand, the wall along Santa Clara Drive will be a 6-foot privacy wall. The only wall that has the wrought iron is the one that's on lava flow. And as far as the amenities go, did you want to pull up the very first landscape plan? Kind of go through that real quick. It's changed since probably the original submittal, so. Okay, so what they've got there's a pool. You kind of see it, I think it's right in phase one is there's a pool and there's a restroom there with the pool. And then just to the east, to the right of that, we show a splash pad, but it could be changed out to a hot tub. They're still debating that. And then just to the east of that, next to that building, you kind of see that square is a pickleball court, and that's in phase two. And then they removed the basketball court because we have to have a large detention basin to accommodate low impact development. So that's gone away. So we've got a pickleball court instead to use the space better. And that's basically it. Any questions on?
No.
This might be an out of place question now that you're asking for a final plat approval. But Bob started it by asking the privacy wall question. Is there going to be some treatments to that to make it look real nice? Is that is the entrance to Santa Clara?
I don't know too much about it as far as anything beyond typical 6 foot. I know that they'll probably have a band with like some, a different face on the outside, maybe somewhere along the wall. How maybe 3 or 4 blocks up, you've got like a different texture on the outside. That's
Split faced
split face.
Or maybe a concrete panel.
Probably saying split face is what they've talked about in the past. But I don't.
Is it too late to even ask that question, Bob?
No, it's not too late to ask the question. I don't think at all. I went back because I had the same question and I looked at the minutes, or I looked at the staff report, I should say, I guess, on when the PD, this is a PD, and they had to bring in the project plan. And we stated when it went to the council that the wrought iron and the wall and the masonry combination would be along lava flow, but it wasn't clear what would happen on Santa Clara Drive. And so and it was clear on what would happen on the south property line. They stated it would be, 6 foot masonry wall. So
Yeah.
I was a little unclear on what was going to happen.
Their plan says lava flow drive and Santa Clara Drive wall.
Yeah, it does.
I
right
can
on their
double check
plan.
on that.
But I don't think they want.
This right here says 3 and 3.
I don't think they're going to want the wrought iron out on Santa Clara because of the noise issue.
Yeah,
Right, and there's
that's-
people's back
Yeah.
kind of right.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
But they also, if I recall the conversation, it was because they wanted it to not just be a big long wall as you're driving into Santa Clara. They wanted something nicer.
So I really I drive by there every day, of course, and I like those, I like the way they built the lava retaining wall.
That rock wall, yeah.
It looks really, really nice. And it would be a shame to have just a cinder block wall there.
And I think those are appropriate comments. And I think, when this goes to the council, maybe we could, I don't know if, if you want it, if you're ready to move it on, but when it comes to council, we have a little conceptual diagram. I'm thinking some of those walls that have little setbacks, that kind of meander a little bit rather than just that.
Well, and I can get with the developer to clarify
Get a
what's going on
little
with it.
character. It's not a long distance because half that frontage is set aside as future commercial.
Right.
And that likely won't have a block wall, but behind the residences, so I don't think it'd be asking too much to get something with a lot of character in that wall. So.
Well, I can bring that back to the developer and we can talk about it. I'm sure he's willing to accommodate.
Yeah.
So is that corner going to be just left open?
Currently, yeah, they're looking at some development options. They've looked at a drink type place. I think that's kind of gone away,
But not put any kind of wall?
no, because it's going to be commercial, so they'll leave it as is.
Mark wants a Krispy Kreme, and I want a Menchie's.
Well, I did look into how much it costs for a franchise.
Probably a
It's
lot.
not a joke.
Shelley, the one thing that they would have to landscape it, so that they'd have to do a 20-foot landscape setback area through there. So that probably even be better than having a block wall.
a business doesn't want coverage, right? They want people to see
Exposure.
what they are.
But I mean, along the, like,
No,
inside the interior.
Because that's the parking side. So that's how they need to get there.
It is against the amenities right there. So there's sort of a buffer between them and the residential.
That's true.
Hey, so one comment back to the wall on Santa Clara Drive, if you notice the landscape plan shows, some trees and some plants there. I wonder, maybe if we can get like an elevation that shows what the landscaping is going to be out there. Because maybe the normal wall will look fine depending on what landscaping they've got out there in the front. I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Something to think about, yeah.
Christelle, can you pull up the other sketches that they provided here a few days ago? Something. Let's see. Yeah, I'd have to keep scrolling through those.
That's the pool and stuff there. Which one are you looking for, Bob?
Well, I was looking for the Santa Clara Drive detail for the wall and the landscape area.
It wasn't in this middle.
You
But
said
I
it
could
wasn't?
see.
The only thing I've seen is that very first sheet that has
Okay.
the lines on it.
Well, I think the plan commission is it's appropriate to make a recommendation, if it's a requirement, I don't know, or a better recommendation on what that should look like to some degree, and then ask them that when they come to the council, that they have some kind of a schematic on what that section would look like.
Phase 1 was in November.
Yeah.
Our last discussion.
Well, he was talking about, you received something a few weeks ago.
Well, when you sent that email on to Austin
Yeah.
sent me a plan, and I didn't have time actually to
I
look
mean,
through all
so what he
that.
sent was that landscape plan that has red lines. You've got the pool plan, you've
Yeah.
got the plan for the restrooms.
Okay,
And
and
the
it
building.
didn't show the Santa Clara Drive.
No, there wasn't a detailed landscape plan in that set
Okay.
of plans.
Well, I think it's appropriate for the plan commission to make a recommendation on it.
All right.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready.
Okay, I will make a motion to recommend to the city council approval of the final plat for Heritage Point Townhomes, Phase 2, located on the south side of Santa Clara Drive, west of Country Lane, as provided and presented to us, with the caveat that they look at, trying to wordsmith this, some aesthetic treatments or over and above aspects of that privacy wall on Santa Clara Drive.
Okay,
I'll second.
I have a first from Marv and a second from Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. You're on your way. All right, we have a discussion item on the new land use related laws passed by the state legislature, which is HB 82, HB 98, and HB 409. I know you guys read all of these. Bob, do you
Wasn't
think
there
we
a
need to walk
breakout
through these,
session?
or what? I mean, I have opinions, but
I'll cover this real quick, I think, because we're gonna, basically, there's a couple of bills. There was three that were land use related. HB 98, which was more building regulations and all, actually was vetoed by the governor because it impacted the floodplain program, whatever. So the governor, this was HB 98, so I'm not gonna spend any time on that. They in fact, I haven't even read it for a while since because it was vetoed, but it said timelines. One of the things it did is it set timelines for a city as far as plan reviews and inspections. And it offered private developers the option of hiring their own inspectors if a city doesn't get to it in a timely manner. And that's true for the actual inspection and the plan review. It also has some things that, the reason the governor vetoed it, well, it says Governor Cox vetoed HB 98. We have attached his veto letter, which states that it supports the bill, but issued a veto in response to concerns raised by FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program. His letter further clarifies that the state is working with those groups to address disaster recovery provisions in the bill. The governor intends to bring the bill back in May special session and support it with the necessary changes. Anyway, that was vetoed. But there's two other land use bills that were passed, and the first one is called HB 82. Deals with accessory dwelling units. It says HB 82, it mandates that cities allow most residents to rent out basement apartments inside their single-family homes, although it allows most cities to exempt a quarter of their residential zones from this requirement. This bill has a little different provisions if they're called university towns, and university towns are defined at part of their campus with 10,000 students within their boundaries or something. Anyway, what it does, and Santa Clara already allows accessory dwelling units. What this bill does, and we'll have to tweak our ordinance to come into compliance, but it only affects what they call internal accessory dwelling units. In other words, this bill only addressed the existing footprint of a single family home and said that cities had to allow for at least 75% of their residential areas, or maybe even single family, to allow. They have to be a permitted use, those basement apartments, or so this is a statewide mandate. I think it's a good one. Santa Clara basically already allows that. Santa Clara under the code allows an accessory dwelling unit to be in part of the house, attached or detached. But this new state law affects only internal dwelling units that are part of the existing home footprint. Again, the option in the bill says cities may option to prohibit in 25% of the primary residential zones. So then that doesn't have to apply citywide. So there'll be a new definition in the state code. It'll be internal accessory dwelling units. That will talk about just simply within the footprint of an existing dwelling.
And I had read in there somewhere that it talked about basically it was taking the power away from the HOAs
Yes.
that they didn't, which I'm surprised they haven't appealed that and fought tooth and nail to try and get that one turned down.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. And maybe some will try, but I think where the state has issued this as a statewide.
Yeah. Yeah, it just took all the power out of the HOAs regulating multi-density units or a single or.
Well, it says that HOAs cannot prohibit an
Right.
internal accessory dwelling unit. Yeah. I mean, some of them may challenge it. I doubt they would be successful, but I don't know. So Matt Ants, was thinking Devin might be here tonight. Matt was asked to come back, draft the provisions that will make Santa Clara compliant with the new code. Basically, we already allow the units. One thing it does say in the new law, it says the cities cannot regulate the size of an internal accessory dwelling unit. But a city can prohibit these on lots smaller than 6,000 square feet. Santa Clara doesn't have many. I think the only place where 6,000 square feet is in the historic district downtown, mixed use historic district. Mm-hmm. So the optional items in the bill said the cities could impose a requirement for one additional parking space. You could require that there's no change to the exterior appearance. Cities could require a business license, and they could require that there be an owner occupancy. In other words, one of the dwellings, either the main home or the accessory, has to be owner occupied. That's which Santa Clara already has in their code. That's in the Santa Clara code, says one of the two units, either the accessory or the main, has to be owner occupied. So that's one of the things it specifically says also is that the cities these are not to be used as short-term rentals.
Yeah.
And part of the business license thing is to make sure that, they're not short-term rentals. They're long-term, which is over 30 days or more. So that's kind of an overview. Let me see, I had some other notes. I've sat through one webinar on this thing. October is the deadline to implement this code. So we'll be seeing it again.
Is that big of a deal for us since we already really comply with it?
Absolutely, it's not. It's not a big deal. We'll just tweak some of our requirements, like say, the Santa Clara City says an accessory unit cannot be smaller than 450 square feet or larger than, I think it says 850. So we could maintain that restriction on a detached if the city wants to. But as far as an internal, the state says the cities shall not regulate the size of a unit. So,
And we don't have anything that says the relationship between the rentor and the,
no, we don't in the code, and the state law doesn't say anything about it. It just says cities may require, owner occupancy of one of the two units. Santa Clara already says that, our ordinance. So I don't think the changes that's going to come to the Santa Clara code are all that significant. It just won't be regulating the size, at least as it applies to an internal. I don't know what the council's thought is. I guess but I don't know that it makes sense to pick out 25% of the community and say this rule doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
I think to me, it ought to just apply citywide. And the idea of renting out basements makes a lot of sense to me. I mean,
Maybe we hold out the historic district, but doesn't the city ordinance already take that into account?
And on what again?
On not allowing them in the historic district?
Mixed use historic district is one of two zones that allows short-term rentals,
But not,
may not. I'd have to look at that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
It may
thought for
not.
some reason I did, but
Yeah, it may not. I don't know. The historic district's got a little bit their own. So anyway, that will be coming back in front of the city to tweak the code, and it has to be done by October.
Did it say that they would need, I have two questions on it, and really, I hate to drag this on any more than we have to. But one question was, it said something about the business license. It said the city may require a business license, but doesn't have to, right?
Correct.
And then the other question I had was on, is there going to be some kind of a minimum amenities, like you got to have a full kitchen and that's the one I can think of. Is
Yeah,
full
that's a
kitchen
good
too.
question.
doesn't the accessory dwelling unit have requirements for what it needs to be in order to be a rentable space? I think it is
I think in terms of, minimum size, I think there is in the building code, but
I think it talks about separate doorway, separate bathroom, separate kitchen. In some
Yeah, I
kind of
think,
wording,
and how much it defines kitchen, I don't really know. We'll have to look at that. Now, one of the things it also does is it tweaks the building code requirements. And let's see if I can find that. It was just, there was a provision. Let's see, I'll get back. Let me look at that again. Let's see. So, there it is, second page. It says, well, let's read this, not too long. It says, a municipality may not establish restrictions on the construction or use of an internal accessory dwelling unit, including size within the primary dwelling, total lot size, or street frontage. However, HB 82 allows municipality to adopt the following internal ADU restrictions and requirements. Require bedroom window egress, prohibit installation of a separate utility meter. So these are optional. It says it allows the municipality to adopt the following. So, an issue about bedroom window egress, prohibit installation of a separate utility meter, require that the internal ADU design not change the appearance of the primary dwelling, require one additional on-site parking space, and replace any garage or carport parking spaces if the internal ADU is created in the garage or carport. Prohibit an IADU in a mobile home, require an IADU permit or license. Prohibit an internal ADU if the primary dwelling is served by a failing septic tank, or prohibit an internal ADU if the lot is 6,000 square feet or less. Prohibit the renting of the internal ADU for less than 30 consecutive days, and prohibit renting an IADU that is not in an owner-occupied primary dwelling. So those last items are optional. We can do those. And I think Santa Clara's. I was looking to St. George. St. George does require a business license for an accessory dwelling unit. And St. George said part of the reason wasn't so much a revenue, it is so their fire department could kind of keep track of those and do a once a year or once every 2 years, whatever the fire code requires, an inspection of those units. So but that's all. Those are optional provisions. Matt Entz has been asked to kind of draft a bill that would come back for step one is obviously the planning commission. And planning commission would have to have a public hearing because it's an amendment to our ordinance. So it'd have to have a public hearing at some point. I don't know if there's not any other question on that. Just quickly on this HB 409. Let's see. That was a bill that had lots of different parts to it. It's kind of a variety of issues. It says legislative purpose of the bill. HB 409 reflects the work of the 2020 Utah League of Cities and Towns Land Use Task Force. That is a group of city people, developers, planning organizations like the American Planning Association, and that they have this ongoing task force that meets periodically between legislative sessions. So anyway, they've thrown together a bunch of stuff, and it says so these would be changing in the State Enabling Act, which is what they call Municipal Land Use Development and Management Act, also called LUDMA. So it includes training requirements for planning commission members. It also allows in the state code, or it will allow development agreements. Development agreements have been happening for years all over the state. The code will now specifically authorize those and say what they can cover. There'll be, a little bit on conditional use permits, not that will affect Santa Clara at all, but it talks about the appeal authority review, subdivisions and lot line adjustments, and also low impact stormwater developments. So there's some little tweaks on a number of those things. But one of the things says requires planning commission members in communities of a certain size, and that's over 5,000 or 5,000 population, to receive 4 hours of land use training annually. Cities that are subject to these training requirements are cities that must follow the law. Those are the same ones that they require this affordable housing plan to be. And the limit on that was a city of 5,000 population or more. So it says 1 hour of training. 1 hour must be on the general powers and duties of the state law, LUDMA. Newly appointed planning commission members may not participate in a public meeting as an appointed member until the member completes this 1 hour of training. Utah League of Cities and Towns will have an online class to help satisfy this requirement. 1 hour can be met by attending 12 planning commission meetings in a calendar year. Other categories of land use training are suggested in the bill, can be met by conference, seminars, or in-house training. So some of you attended the meetings today, those will count as hours. There's a lot of other resources and we can bring forward. Utah League of Cities and Towns has some videos and training. The American Planning Association has a lot of resources, videos and training. And so there's a lot of resources that we can do right here in this room, you know, maybe on a short
Who
agenda.
tracks that, or how do we track that? Because obviously we did some stuff today, and
Yeah.
is that something we need to self-report or?
A good question. I don't know the answer to that. But I don't know if today in this session, if you signed anything, but if not, you just keep track of it and then we'll figure that out. I'm not sure. The Utah League of Cities and Towns, I'm not sure anybody's totally figured out how, you know, who's going to be the reporting group or whatever.
But the stuff we attended today doesn't meet the 1 hour on the general powers and duties of LUDMA, right?
I
I
don't
need
think
that. Do we need that separately?
I think so. That's
Isn't
my
that a-
opinion.
Isn't that an actual, that's the one that Lena suggested we do?
Yeah, that's a course, and I think that is at luau.gov. luau.gov. I think that's where you can take that
Oh.
course.
I'm not sure the website.
Oh, it is a course. I thought it was the 1 hour video with it.
Yeah.
But I think there'll be a number of, you know, online, these will be online things we can either do here or you can do them at home at your own time, but we'll look through that.
You've got to have perfect attendance in a year to get an hour of training. I know that.
So stop missing.
That's a joke.
The most.
It's like
punitive
40
of
hours of
all.
planning.
I know.
It's your 1 hour.
40 hours of planning. Yeah.
This
You know-
is Devin Snow. Can you all hear me?
Exactly. There's going to be a lot of, I think, alternatives available for this training, you know, like say it'd be videos, things we can show here. There'll be training sessions held here around the state. I think Utah League of Cities and Towns will have their traveling road show. Whatever. And so tomorrow morning, in fact, those of you signed up for this Utah League of Cities and Towns at 9:00. Tomorrow's a live. I don't know if they're zooming it or not. And it's all about the new regulations that were passed by the legislature. So they're going to cover HB 82 and by 409 and a couple of others. And that's at 9:00. Again, I'm not certain if that's going to be by Zoom as well as in person, but it's definitely in person at the Dixie Center. So go there at 9:00.
Devin, were you trying to say something?
I was. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. I just wanted to point out that under the code, it's the municipality that tracks the training time. And so you can just report that to staff and they can track that. But basically, it's anything land use related. So, yeah, so just make sure to report that so that the city can track that. And then I was going to point out too, just really briefly, Bob has done a good job of doing a general overview. I do think that there may be some changes to the conditional use regulation that we have, given that we now have to make sure that the standards are objective. Many of our standards are in the subjective category. And so I do think that we'll have to take a look at that. So just be, it's going to come to the Planning Commission. And so, you may want to be thinking about what kinds of standards we may want to have. So.
Yeah. There's a provision that says lot line adjustments are not subject to land use authority review. So that's something the staff could do, which are usually pretty minor when you're adjusting a lot boundary between two consenting property owners. There's also a provision in here, I don't know if I can find it, but says that in a subdivision, once a subdivision is approved and recorded, the city may not adopt a land use regulation that, here it is, I just found it. Let me see. It says The bill prohibits a municipality for a period of 10 years after the day on which a subdivision plat is recorded from imposing on a building permit for a single-family dwelling in the subdivision any land use regulation that is enacted within that 10-year period. So anyway, it's, and that's, I don't know how often that even happens anyway, but I guess that's one of them. Anyway, Devin, as I don't know, I understand that you and Matt are working on the changes to HB 82, that how they affect our code.
Yes, I understand Matt is taking that on.
Okay. So there, and like you said, there'd probably be a few tweaks to some of the ordinances, perhaps the conditional use that come out of this HB 409, but they're generally pretty minor, and yeah, we'll just have to see how that goes.
Yep.
I don't have anything else unless you have any questions.
Nothing for me. Okay, so we'll just wait until council gets those revisions made.
Well, they'll come to us first. I don't know, Matt maybe will submit them, but they, by normal process, they come to the planning commission. Planning commission will have to hold a public hearing anytime we change or tweak the land use ordinance. Planning commission holds a public hearing and sends a recommendation on to the council. So on that HB 82, like I say, there's a lot of optional things, and you'll have to decide, should 25% of Santa Clara be, not affected by that change, or should it apply citywide? There's a bunch of others, some things. Should an additional parking requirement be imposed? There's some of those things that they left up to cities to choose. So we'll be talking about that, and maybe at that point we'll have a joint meeting between Planning Commission Council and maybe talk about some of those issues. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait until then.
Okay.
And with that, we only have the approval of the minutes from last month.
I will move to approve the minutes from the special meeting from March 18th, 2020.
Excellent. Got a first from Curtis
I'll second.
and a second from Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the minutes are approved. And with that, we will conclude this meeting of April 22nd, 2021. Until next month.
So I also noticed, and I saw Mark responded back that